Let's get. We've started the recording. All right. So this meeting today is about the Shoreline Management Act. We're going to have a consensus meeting. Hopefully you all saw the reminder that went out on Sunday for everybody about this meeting that had the links with the summary of what this is all about and then the questions we're going to be going over. So this is very exciting to get to participate in an actual consensus process. Thank you for whoever did that. Transcriptions enabled. All right, so diversity, equity, inclusion. Call out to our website tonight. On our website, we have a fabulous page that has all of these KSPS videos that you can watch that are related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. If you go to our homepage and there's a tab at the top called About, you'll see a section in there called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. If you click on that, then there'll be one more click that will bring you here. We're going to post the link in the chat so that for those online, you'll be able to get to that link pretty easily. I highly recommend watching all of these. It's really good information. Next. Land acknowledgement. So we do land acknowledgement with every meeting, and shout out to KSPS again, because they sent out this email that I got about November is Native American Heritage Month. And then they have their land acknowledgement for the land we are on today as the traditional territory of, and I'll say Spokane, and the rest you can read. Hopefully at some point I'll learn how to pronounce those. Which was ceded without treaty in 1873 and 1891. We also acknowledge governments and the roles today in caring for these lands. This is also a link we're going to post in the chat. I found this interactive map just fascinating. It shows you who was on what lands in our area. So I highly recommend checking it out. It's kind of fun to play with and sad all at the same time. All right, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy. Welcome, Amy. I'm excited about this.
Having trouble finding the link to join me.
Okay, well, can you hear me okay? All right, next slide, please. Okay, so the Shoreline Management Act, or SMA as I will refer to it from here on out, was enacted over 50 years ago and was one of the first environmental regulations adopted in the state of Washington. The act has been supplemented by other environmental laws and regulations over the years, but it remains a primary regulation for protecting shorelines. It covers saltwater and fresh shorelines. And there's a very specific definition that's in the act. Shorelines is coastal shorelines, rivers and streams with an annual flow of 20 cubic feet per second. Shorelines of lakes that are 20 acres or greater in size and their associated wetlands. The act applies landward 200 feet from the shoreline's ordinary high water mark. So every county in Washington contains shorelines that are subject to this act. The Shoreline Study was adopted at the 2019 League of Women Voters Washington Convention. It is now ready for statewide member study and discussion. The consensus derived from this process will be used to develop a Washington League position, which both the state and local leagues can then use to advocate for changes to public policy. Okay, well, I think we skipped a slide, but that's okay. So just stay here.
Maybe go back because the map is really good.
Oh, okay. There should be a slide of the map. Yes.
Okay.
So the blue.
You want to hold the mic just an inch farther.
Wait. Like here? Okay. I can't turn my head because
So you're loud. You're too loud.
I'm too loud.
Well,
Wow. Okay.
There's volume control.
Okay. Sorry, I'm used to projecting in large rooms. Okay. So the blue is freshwater shoreline. The green is saltwater shoreline. And as I just said, every county has some shorelines that are under subject to this.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. I didn't know if it was
Turn the
me or
computer
not.
off. Yeah. We're getting there.
Okay.
Yeah. I just did it.
How's that?
Yeah,
Better? Okay, good.
it was me.
Okay, so we can look at this one for a while because the stuff I have to say went with the last slide. So in conducting this study, a committee of the State League of Women Voters studied the act, the regulations, and related court and administrative decisions concerning the SMA. The committee also met with officials from the Washington State Department of Ecology who are responsible for implementing the act and overseeing local government implementation. Finally, the committee interviewed 18 individuals with varying experience with the SMA in differing aspects of its application, including local government planners and elected officials, state agency representatives, bulkhead builders, port officials, environmental groups, property rights groups, shellfish industry persons, tribal government representatives, and others. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. The study, make sure I'm on the right place. The study summarized the history of the act, the substance and structure of the SMA, and the conclusions of the study are organized into 14 issues that impact the efficacy and application of the SMA. So 1, updates and periodic reviews are required to address changes in the law and other circumstances, but there is no mechanism to look back and check on how the Shoreline Master Program is working. 2, there are questions regarding the policy basis for certain exemptions and whether local governments are consistent in granting exemptions. And 3, an evaluation of how the balancing of shoreline policy goals should be weighted is warranted. 4, in determining whether no net loss is being achieved, quantitative standards are not being applied consistently among all jurisdictions. 5, habitat restoration needs to be a higher priority with more incentives and funding. 6, public involvement could be improved. 7, concerns about industrial aquaculture are not being addressed. 8, more robust monitoring programs and adaptive management are needed. 9, public access for future needs is a concern. 10, the existing law does not fully climate change impacts. 11, Department of Ecology oversight of local programs is critical to ensure consistency in how local plans are implemented. 12, enforcement programs need to be funded and they need to be stricter. 13, training of staff, legal staff, and elected officials is critical. And 14, incentives for restoration projects must be prioritized. Next slide, that was a long one.
No.
Okay. So as we work through the discussion and consensus process tonight, the questions are organized in the following discussion topics, which are environmental protection, climate change, no net loss and net gain, local government funding, exemptions, state oversight, preferred uses, and public access. Next slide. So the Shoreline Study has been completed. Tonight we will go through member discussion and work through the consensus questions. At the end, the consensus questionnaire will go to me, Amy Comstein. So we might have just enough to do one big group, but please, so turn that questionnaire into me, and then if you're online, email me at the end of the night. Then in December, our team will look at all the questionnaires and evaluate for consensus.
Right.
Our committee will write up your local league's consensus statement to present to the local board in December. The local league board will send our consensus statement to the state board, which is due January 16th. And working with the study committee, the state board will evaluate for consensus among local leagues. Next slide, thank you. So what is consensus? And here's the definition. Consensus is member agreement reached after study and discussion. It is not a simple majority, nor is it necessarily unanimity. Rather, it is the overall sense of the group as expressed through the exchange of ideas and opinions. Consensus is not a vote or a poll. However, a show of hands may be used to determine the sense of the group. So reminder, it's not a vote. We don't have to be unanimous. Consensus doesn't mean that you think it's the best idea ever. If you can live with it, then that's good enough. Last slide. Thank you. So the discussion questions are there to guide the conversation. They're optional, but they might be helpful to the consensus process. Each question has page numbers that refer back to the study for reference for each question. There are specific consensus questions in addition to the discussion, but the consensus may arise from the discussion on its own. So as we work through these, record your group's response for each consensus question, and then there's also a comment section to record any related comments. And so we'll break into groups of 6 to 8. So I think we can all be in one big group here in person, and then there'll be some groups on Zoom. And then I think we'll plan to come back at 6:45.
We did post the link in the chat for the study materials if they want to open it up online.
Okay, so April just said that we have posted the study materials in the chat, so you can refer to those. And how many people do we have online?
So we have 2 leaders, right? So we're going to split it into 2 groups.
Yes, so Rebecca is ready, and then there I see Elaine, so they're both ready to be discussion leaders.
Breakout rooms, maybe 2. Create. Then see others. Okay, 1 and 2. So you want Rebecca in 1.
Amy and Agar is there.
Oh, yes, and we have Ann Agar from the study committee.
So which room
She's-
do you want her in?
That's a good question.
It sometimes works to have her stay in the main room, and then if someone in a breakout room needs her, they can send a message.
So she'll be here to answer if we have any questions about the study or the questions or.
Okay, so the way it's set up right now, we could just open all the rooms and then Agar can leave the room if she wants. Aeon, do you know how to leave the room once you're in there? So that you could just come back to the,
I don't know. Do you want, I don't know. I don't think, I'm just a resource. So
Right.
how do you want me to interact? It's hard to be in more than one room, I think.
April, I think it works if she just doesn't accept the invitation to go to a room, and then she'll be left on the screen
Okay.
in here.
did you hear that, Ann?
Yeah, just include me in a room, however you want to do it.
Okay,
And
so instead of accepting the room invite, Ann, just don't do anything and it should leave you in the main room. Did that make sense?
I don't, however you want to do it is fine,
Okay.
but just so you know how to get to me if you want to, if you want something, but can I hear what the discussion is if
Yeah.
I'm in the room?
Yeah. I mean, does
You'll
it
hear
really
the
matter
what
which
the
room she's
people
in?
hear.
Yeah, so I think we'll just open the rooms and let her go and then
Maybe
see if we can call her
does
back.
She
She doesn't.
understand there's a room of people in groups.
So open all rooms, go ahead and open all rooms. So you should be getting an invite to a room that you can accept.
But don't accept.
Now it's telling me to join room 1.
Okay, so don't join, just ignore it, Ann.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna sit down, if that's okay.
Okay, I have a question. Am I joining a room? Or because I'm here? This is Jennifer Calvert.
This is like a thing.
Right, so Jennifer's not gonna
Yeah,
join it.
So who is the other person besides Rebecca? Like Rebecca's in one of them.
Elaine Harder's in room 2 and Rebecca's in room 1.
Okay.
And that's what we wanted.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
in a smaller group.
But, okay, so I see that all of us that aren't going to a room, we choose Rebecca.
You might want to tell them they have to accept. because they-
Aruna
Well,
moved. Jan hasn't moved. Kathy hasn't
I don't know who's behind.
moved. So you can just move them.
Okay. So.
So go to Jan and move to, Oh, she's in
only
room
two,
1.
Yeah,
oh,
she got the invite, but she has to accept it to get into the room.
yeah. Room 8 broadcast. Jan, are you having an issue with accepting the room? Can you hear me, Jan? Are you able to hear me, Jan, online? So did you get an invite to a room?
Her voice is not coming through.
Yeah, we can't hear your voice even though you're off mute. Oh, did she do it? Oh my God.
No,
Doesn't show that she's on video.
she's not.
Oh, maybe
muted.
she came back in. Who's Kathy West? I don't know who Kathy West is.
Well, that's still.
Arun is asking to come in.
Lucy is April.
Yeah,
The buzzer is
I
Kathy
don't
West.
see it. Where's? Oh, she's already in
And I
there.
don't know who's
Okay.
So Jan needs to accept the invite. Kathy West needs to accept the invite. That's
I
Ed.
don't know, I don't know if Anne's gonna hear us well enough in this main room. She may hear better in a room than trying to hear this room on Zoom.
Yeah, and really, like, I don't think she intends to be a part of the discussion.
Okay,
She doesn't want to sway any group.
Oh, got it.
She's here if we need her for questions.
okay. So if we need to, we'll just speak louder.
Yes.
Well, we could all hunker over someplace where, I mean, where
So
could we
Jan
be
is still
close?
having it. Oh,
Can I ask her to accept the invite?
yeah. You can put it to just.
Is there a problem with the discussion, the way we are now laid out in here?
Uh,
I think we can hear everybody.
Here, yeah, we'll find it. Just screenshot what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry about us. If you want to get started on your discussion, go
Okay.
right ahead. We'll keep working on this here.
You want to tag team it? Great. Okay. Why don't we move out here in
Okay.
front?
No, I think I'm okay. Just trying to make sure I have. all my-
I know, I said they didn't do that. I couldn't hear.
And it's still recording.
No, I was like, you know,
yes, it hasn't.
So
it
you
hasn't
get to
started.
start number one with your question.
That's fair.
What we did as a committee was we got questions to spend a little more time.
It doesn't- it doesn't- it just says
should I read all of
no to
this?
or-
No, everyone has a copy of this.
Okay. Yes.
Everybody have a copy of this? And let's just, first,
We do.
grins and giggles, how many?
Okay, I'm
people
gonna
read
try,
this
she
stuff?
said she.
I don't know, I know you read it several times. Okay. And did you have an opportunity to watch the video that was posted on? And have you?
Oh, yeah, she's, oh, she took the one in there.
Just helps us know what the layout of the
Oh,
land is here. So,
I don't know what
because
it's-
mostly what we remember
Oh,
having
it
in
has
it
them in
is
both.
that the idea is to read, get the material in the background. So you're not answering
Yeah,
just
but
about
she's
your
down
own
here too.
lakefront
She's on two
property.
devices. One device is
So-
riverfront.
Yeah, or riverfront. And so we're really fortunate to have Allison here as well, because she was on the committee and has been
Well,
involved.
that should be okay. It's-
So, maybe, I
So
would
the one
say,
that says not joined is the one
I don't
that
know.
She might be on a different
I don't
device.
understand that too. But
we would get both of hers, or
that's
this one?
up to you.
So this. we
So can I
wanna
just
do
move this
section
to the second one?
Yeah, we should probably. Oh, we need a recorder.
Should I
Oh,
just move it in the
yes.
second and the first section?
In my report, I have to read the paper.
Paper, but
And then we go down. And then
She's
we go
just
down.
over here.
recorder
Like, I
just
don't
means
like
write
interrupting
down
in the
what
middle of
people
whatever
are
she's
saying.
like,
Yeah.
clear.
Okay,
So move
and
to
I'm
one.
sorry,
Just
Marilyn.
do it,
Marilyn,
'cause I said-
welcome, Marilyn.
Oh, main session.
You wanna
I might
scoot
have a
over?
thing to add people back to the meeting.
I'm good here. I just hope you spread out.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
you
she-
just want me
she went out there, but she's still here,
like
so I
the
think she
names?
should-
Yeah, we should know, well, we don't need show. I don't think we need that.
Just the points that are made.
The points that are made, and who over here wants to participate in this discussion group?
We will when we can.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
okay. We just need to report how many are in this discussion. So just a count, head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
10 altogether with both. Counting through.
Are we? What?
Sure. Gotta be 11.
Yeah. Okay. How do you want to do it?
So The discussion is, how would you balance the policy goals for the Shoreline Management Act? Why? And if the goals are weighted, what is most important? All the other laws fit in.
Okay, so essentially what's on here is a summary of what's in the study. So. you can see where you- Didn't they have this line of gold?
What's it look like for you?
Yeah, then for, well.
We did not create slides.
She said not.
Right.
So once you have.
Oh.
Well, you had
Okay.
12%. There were 14 concerns, this,
Yeah.
starting summarized.
Those were at the end of the
Okay.
study.
Yeah.
Yeah, they came up.
Oh. Kathy, you
And one
did
of
it
them-
on you. Okay.
And so you can see the goals they have are those parenthetical numbers there. So. So wait, Lynn, did you have a comment? I started your hand.
Well, I really think that local understanding and implementation
Even though
of
it says she's
things
here,
further
they're not showing.
is how it goes. But I really am always now concerned about the political aspect, so that not, like even in our county, getting behind closed doors and nobody knows what happens. So those are the things, even though there's local people in there, I don't know that we want it to be not open for public hearings. Even if there are people speaking for. And then I think that we have to have state overreach on it, so they're watching it or go through it policy-wise every now and then. And I also think we need to have a federal edge to it, because we have had a federal problem with our military in our water in Airway Heights. And so and these kinds of things happen, not just here, but in many areas throughout the nation, as well as the rest of Washington. So I really think locally, people know what's going on, and the local people will make it work if they can make it work.
Hey, yeah, I think what you're trying to do is more of an implementation. The goals that we're talking about are planning and fostering reasonable appropriate uses that protect against adverse impacts, ensuring public access to the shorelines, and creating a preference for water dependent uses.
And I think all of that needs to be done at the local level.
Well, and we're required to create, according, if we read the study, our own shoreline management plan, SMP. That's part of the SMA that governs the state.
Right.
And the feds get into it with various clean, or the clean water, the quality of the water, right?
So it's
I
not
don't
even
remember
showing us
anything
what's going
here
on.
on federal shorelines. Allison, do you remember anything? Do you know of anything? No.
So I have no idea.
Both of those cities, I thought they were already,
At this point, it's probably
but there was no penalty for not completing them. Right.
So, one of the useful things would be to find out whether our county has actually completed.
Well, there is a question on that. I think what we're wanting to do here is just, what do you think of these three goals?
So I'm thinking that they're not enough.
Okay.
Because one of the goals was to make sure that there was no net loss, and in some areas really were kind of gained.
I don't think that's it's gonna be addressed later. Yeah, it's another question, and I think it's part of goal number one. I mean, when you think of an overall goal of a program, that goal is to protect against adverse impacts.
So the actual consensus question is, should the lead take a position that those three policy goals do not have equal weight? I think maybe one should be higher than the others.
Yeah.
And then I think they're saying also that the protection of the shoreline environment is more important than those other two goals. Public access and fostering.
Yeah, that's certainly does. conclusion of the study.
And you, yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna get up.
It's okay, Marilyn, that's okay.
No, that's good.
So, Amy, what were you just saying about, is it the things that one might be weighted higher than?
So the consensus question is asking, should we take the position that those three policies goals do not have equal weight? And that the protection of shoreline should be weighted higher than the other two goals? That's what the question is asking. You know, it's a consensus of that.
So what we're being asked to do is how do we agree or disagree
Yeah.
with that statement that's on the second page under consensus question number 1.
I don't see the quote, the protection of the shoreline environment among those three goals on the first page. It can be, they can be read into it, each of them.
So now it says Jan's.
Number 3 is extremely confusing to me. What is water dependent uses except everything?
Boating, agriculture.
House,
Every
house,
Somebody-
household, everybody needs water, everything.
Well,
needs water.
but we're not about the water. It's that line between the water and the land and how that interfaces that this study is about. It's about the shorelines. Amy talked about the high water. There was,
Ordinary high water mark.
Right.
There are more acronyms in this study.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
and they
yes,
probably
yes,
cut
yes,
them,
yes.
cut them down.
I think
They could.
I think it needs a
But
glossary.
at some point they spelled it out.
So-
I have abbreviations.
Oh, yes,
there is
some.
Yeah.
So water dependent uses are things like aquaculture, so like there's a whole section where I talk about the green decks. Ports, shipping, so like our rivers, I have the boat barges that go up and down. Those are the things that I wrote. And then we talked about in our smaller meeting, like the paper mill, they could maybe argue that their use is water dependent.
Kind of what Jean was getting.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, but if the water, it's how the effluent from the paper mill going into the water, is it coming back and affecting the shoreline? That's what, we've got to keep coming back to the shoreline and thinking about what degradation happens to a shoreline. Probably one of the things we see the most in this area is when the cows are all coming down to the creek and destroy the riparian area. That's land, not the water. And of course, then that contributes to the low quality of water. So
But Jean, weren't you saying that last 3 just is everything?
Yeah.
And is it meaning more creating a ranking?
Hard
Or-
Yeah.
Is hard for me to create a ranking.
Because the question says creating a preference, which is question.
I think one of the confusing things about that is water dependent use as opposed to shoreline integrity. And I think that the gist of the study.
This is your time check, real quick, just to let you know it's been 15 minutes.
Okay.
Not to interrupt your train of thought. Keep going.
Do we want to give a timeline? Do we have a timeline?
Yeah, we have to do.
Well, I know that part, but is
So
there a timeline for the questions?
No, we'll just try and get through.
probably if we get through this first one and understand what we're trying to do, the others will become easier.
so I think the question, the goals, I don't think are stated as clearly. And there's, expressed. But I think that the question is really, as Amy stated, we really feel like there's one that's more important. And that is planning and fostering in a manner that protects against adverse impact. And the whole bulk of the study is, in support of that notion. And once you lose the integrity of the shoreline, getting it back is a lot harder than protecting it. So,
So number one, you're saying is the
I believe that is the one that is most respectful of the environmental impact of uses. And at the same time, does not preclude other uses. It really says that there is a trade-off, and in that trade-off, the quality of the shoreline has to be.
That helps. So you're saying you agree with that first goal?
Yeah.
Wait, okay. Does anyone agree? Do y'all strongly agree? Does anyone disagree?
Well, the biggest problem with that is because of private ownership. And then if we end up with all our shorelines owned in private ownership, that means people will be restricted from being able to
I
access
think
any of
that,
these things.
that's part of what is included in this.
Yeah.
And but I think that there are certain areas where that is more at risk than other areas in the state. And what those county plans are supposed to address is those issues. In some cases, public access might be to the detriment of the structure. But private access wouldn't be considered either, so, you know, I mean, but it's up to the counties to make those determinations based on the highest purpose of not allowing our shoreline to discriminate. So I think as we get into the other questions, Lynn, I think your concern is gonna be addressed later.
I think another example, not again, we can go back to this, but a water dependent use is boating. But if you stream up and down a lake and create a large wave, you are then damaging the shoreline, and that's why there's certain restrictions on that as well. So
And as well, with boat ramps, you know, if you have too many boat ramps, you are degrading your shoreline.
right.
So, and it's all about weighing the risk versus reward, and is there another way that we can provide access without impacting?
I just want to say that I agree with
This,
I
that's
agree
Alice.
with Alice. I agree with you that number one should be rated higher than the others. Is that what the consensus is?
Yeah, and that's everyone kind of saying, okay, I heard, or if you don't agree, then this is where you would say it, and then, you know, it's, then can you live with it?
And I think possibly the best word right there is planning, the first word, because that gives some kind of scope of the thing. Like, we have a species loss of 50% right now of all species on the planet. In some cases, it's more than that, like even on our Puget Sound whales, many of the whales are down to just a handful of species.
Okay, that's another issue.
But I mean,
So
this
we need
affects
to
all of it.
move
This
on.
planning affects all of these kinds of things.
Okay, so you're talking about where it says in the study, the first goal is protecting health, land, vegetation, terrestrial and aquatic wildlife, while planning for and fostering all future water security.
Yeah.
That's on page 32. I added number 5.
Yeah, so, yeah, I guess I just want to make sure, did I hear anybody who doesn't agree about the weight?
Technically, I don't, but it's actually that I think all three are valuable.
Oh, definitely.
In my opinion, the goal is not realistic because there's going to be change. What's realistic is how we slow it or speed it up. And we have to recognize that. And I think sometimes we can stop all change. And if we do that, then we're going to have to. So, agree but not strongly. I disagree, but I'm okay with it.
choices do we have? Okay. All right, so it's not my reality. You were marking a consensus for that one? Okay. Moving on. So the second one, which goes under the climate change topic. What is the cost benefit of a mandate for local governments to comply with the ecology guidelines? Are there other vehicles to address climate change? And then the consensus question is, the league should take a position that the Shoreline Management Act, its implementing regulations and guidelines require that all local master plans include an element to address the plan for climate change. Okay, that one I forgot. Okay.
Yeah, well, that one's there because obviously when this was written. So,
Yeah.
because this is the big, it's bigger concern.
Okay. Do we feel consensus on that one?
There's no one against that one?
No.
So, the next two deal with the no net loss and the net gain, which is really important. Now, you would have copies of the actual study.
I have one.
Because I think that small and this little thing.
No, she wants to show map.
Oh, it's not a map, it's a graph that talks about no net loss. And when you go back, and if you're really interested in, I think we could probably just on page 18 for those of you who have the study. Or if you have so what has been the standard part of this is that when it was written, it was just for no net loss of the degradation we were talking about. And and so the discussion question is about the cumulative effects that happen with no net loss. And should current projects be made to create gain where others prior projects have created a loss. And so what they're looking to work into the new plan would be projects that will create a gain in restoration of the shoreline. Allison, did you have another, some additional understanding on that?
Well, I think one of the things that is clear is that this thing is being framed slowly. And during the time between inception and today, so that's the law.
Right.
And so I think the net gain is a concept that is seeking to redress. It's a concept that is seeking to redress the losses that we've already seen that are still that still can be replaced.
So that would be restoration projects. And we see those on riverbanks and stream banks. That's more in the environment here. In the study, you saw some examples of those seawalls and making changes there in terms of hard bulkheads and that kind of thing to restore. So the consensus question is, should the league take a position that local government must periodically assess and report whether the no net loss standard is being achieved? So right now, what they have shoreline management plan. I think it's really interesting. They have to be renewed or reevaluated every 8 years. I think it's just an interesting time interval. And the thing is, by the time they collect data, there could be even further gain or loss. But
Depending on who does the studies too.
well, there are standards for that, and so so anyway, any other thoughts on the no net loss
or- I don't know if this is the right place to bring it up, but 23 jurisdictions have never updated. Never brought their,
Right.
I think that gets handled in another question, but what was the total number of,
259 jurisdictions.
Yeah.
and 23 have never.
yeah. So
provided an update.
when you look at that, I mean, I'm not trying to justify people not doing it, but you can look at, that's what, roughly a 10-12%, so you've got almost 90% are. So the problem is penalty if you don't, that's the problem.
Yeah, I think maybe the environability is either sort of hanging out there, but it is addressed in other ways.
I think there is,
There's further questions about.
there's a further question about, yeah, I think,
right?
well, and
Going
doing
back to the question, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, are we, where are we? We have a strongly agree and agree, and then we have the no opinion, and then the disagree and strongly disagree.
Right, and I said agree because I think there may be reasons why those 29 counties, they don't have the staff, they don't have the money, they don't have the whatever. So I agree with that. I think they should, but as you said, only 10% are, and it's not the end.
And I don't think, does the study say specifically where those jurisdictions are? I mean, it was that every county has some shoreline.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of Adams County, I know.
The rural areas have the worst time.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. because they're
Well,
right on
and
the funding.
it depends on their perspective. You're talking about Adam. I mean, EPA considers anything that carries water over a certain number of days is under their control. So there may be a county that's like, okay, most of our streams are so inactive, we're not gonna waste time doing it. I don't know, I'm just saying that's.
I agree with Becky that we should, I would say agree, not strongly agree on this one, but I know that.
It really depends on the population density of the areas, because that's usually the biggest impact, the kinds of building, the kinds of things, activities that people are doing. And like sometimes like Puget Sound, the whole city has boats on it. I mean, depending on what they're celebrating. So there's huge impacts and the garbage and all the things that happen because of that kind of activity.
Okay, so just to remind us, the question that we're on is should we take a position that local governments must periodically assess and report whether the mineral net loss standard is being achieved?
Yeah. Strongly agree.
Yeah, I strongly agree.
Well, we're sort of in between. We had a little more on just agree. And so maybe,
We need a color bar.
so, no, but what I want are,
Can you live with agree or?
what we want to get are some of the comments as to why you all said what you said. I don't know if Marilyn, you got some of those down or not.
I got was that rural areas are going to have a tougher time than.
Good.
And I think my strongly agree is based on the fact that it's probably not an inventory of bunch of situations. It's very hard to apply any remediation. So I think it's important to get that picture. And there are cases of the whole thing is important.
And there's another question down here that deals with some funding to help with that.
Yeah.
So the second question that relates to the no net loss, net gain, are first of all, looking at the key differences between no net loss and net gain. What concerns do any of you have about degradation of shoreline ecological systems? Do you think the no net loss standard is adequate? Is it being implemented correctly? And this seems,
Yeah, she's kidding.
It is so distracting.
What is?
Her knitting.
oh,
Oh.
It's okay to say that, Anne.
things that, I have.
So this question almost is a really weird question following up the previous question that was just agreed, saying that they should report it. But now we're looking at, is no net loss inadequate? Do we need to push now for net gain? Is basically how I'm reading this.
Yeah, what they're trying to say.
Oh, there it
Yes.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
net loss.
So now if you tell me a page, I can put it up there.
There's up a line.
Oh, okay,
Net
so the
gain
little,
is going up a little bit, so which do you want? Net gain is awesome, but I don't know.
Living
if
with it.
we're gonna achieve that anymore.
Well, and like they're having these food farms over there, and they have no idea in the long term, because it's now becoming totally industrialized, so that all of the shorelines over there are gonna be impacted by it regardless of where they are. So how do you figure that out? You've gotta have somebody looking at it every year and starting to bail back if we're really in big trouble, and we might be already.
I think that, not surprisingly, I'm strongly in favor. And,
You're strongly in favor of.
applying,
question 4,
So
strongly agree.
Question 4.
So you want to see a net gain. You're not happy with the net loss.
I think that if we push for a net gain, we may affect,
See no net loss.
see not lots in some areas, and we may see net gain in other areas. And to me, you present the idea. And compliance and how we get there is always a flawed process.
Yes, is
But
it,
I think that, if you don't set your eyes on a goal, you're not going to get there.
is it aspirational? Yeah, it very well could be, but, so was having a 50% recycling rate a number of years ago. And now there's, more of that happening. So
Yes and no.
we're not even gonna discuss it.
You should have brought it
No,
up.
but it was an example of an aspirational goal.
I guess I would like to make the point that, I agree that net gain is what we like.
That's
to
the
do.
goal.
There are so many exemptions to no net loss. We don't even know where they are.
See, that's what I'm saying, it's more of a bargaining tool.
I think, and I think that one of the things that the study really did articulate is the need to refine those objections and make it more difficult and make people actually have to justify what they're doing as opposed to having. So, yeah, these questions are hard because they're isolating parts of a whole. And you're not looking at, the whole thing at once, but yeah,
There are, one of my concerns about the exemptions is that there doesn't even have to be public notification. Yes.
Yeah,
So we don't even know who's getting an exemption.
unless you have somebody sitting in the planning office watching who comes in and being able to look over the desk to see what's going
well,
on.
I think having a strong SMA plan is a good start. And, yeah. Well, all of the above.
Yeah, really. Well, and one of the
Sorry.
things that I think we did talk about, and if somebody wants, well, where are we in Spokane? Well,
We don't.
we do kind of. They did finish, they said on their website, they did finish the plan in 2021, with the update. And all it says is it's in ecology's hands, and ecology says they have to prove it. So there's.
Situation
Yes.
Which tells you a whole lot.
Right.
We don't know what it is.
And
And there's a reason.
I don't think that ecology was the default for this study in terms of the SMA. I think that was Yeah.
the default for it.
Well, I mean, I don't know why ecology would be the one necessarily that would be.
I don't know
signing
why
up.
ecology got there before. Didn't it say something about the local jurisdictions update it and then Department of Ecology has to approve it or approve?
Right.
They are the agency that
Sure.
enforces, does whatever needs to be done for this act, this,
Right, and I don't,
I
don't
thought
know.
it said they have statutory authority to enforce.
well, those
Okay.
are much better words, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
But they don't. Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't.
and the SMA should be approved when it goes to ecology, it's my. So then it is ecology's responsibility to enforce and
Implement the plan.
So, yeah,
Well, they implement the act. The act is the statewide umbrella. That plan is what each jurisdiction does. Right. So are we strongly agreeing with the aspiration of net gain here?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, okay.
Anybody else?
I agree, but I'm okay with it.
it's kind of a blue.
How are we doing on time, guys?
We're getting ready to tell you you have 15 minutes left in about
Okay,
3
okay,
minutes.
We gotta move on. because we're pushing time.
Okay,
Hi.
Amy.
Okay,
Yes.
local government funding. What are the costs and benefits of funding shoreline management mandates? Where should this funding come from? Okay, consensus question is, should the league take a position that the state must provide more funding sources dedicated specifically for training and enforcement?
Yeah, when you were going to say. I'm gonna let go.
Okay.
I strongly agree.
Me too.
Yes.
Okay.
Well done.
Plain old agreement.
Where is the funding come from? Because when you fund it, somebody loses it, which is just what we saw happen with Trent Warehouse.
Well,
Yeah.
some counties don't have any money, some cities don't have any money, so the federal government's the only thing left, and unless you can figure out how to get it out of the federal government, you're not gonna have any.
I think they said
It says
enforcement was one of the first ones to go when the
Right.
funding gets cut.
Yeah,
So again, this is
in
aspiration.
a perfect world, yes.
Yeah.
Reality is, what are we giving up for it? And are we willing to give that?
Right, and then you put this on full scale with everything else that we're doing. We want the state to do for us. But we don't want to pay taxes.
No, exactly. Exactly. People are like,
Okay, exemptions.
I don't want to pay that much for gas. Well, where do you think you're?
Okay, no, let's go, Amy.
Okay, exemptions. Discussion is, how will requiring local governments to document exemptions help protect our shorelines? We'll have some opinions about this earlier. Do we see anything more?
It should always.
Well, yeah, and
Okay, so the consensus question is, should the league take a position that local governments should be required to prepare and submit letters of exemption to ecology for tracking purposes?
Yes,
I
I
strongly
agree.
I strongly.
And in the comments,
But they-
public.
Yeah, thank you.
you're 15 minutes left.
Thank you, Vanna.
Yeah, we are. Well,
You're doing good.
but do take note that that said for tracking purposes.
Yeah.
Right. Not for any
Requiring
approval.
justification
And
or
letting-
But just so that, but it still should be.
You're right, it lays a baseline. Right. Okay, so we have state oversight. Ecology is ecology oversight an appropriate tool for protecting state shorelines? Are there any other ways to ensure consistency among local jurisdictions that implement their SMPs?
Again, I agree, but how is that going to be paid for? What other program is going to? Somebody.
And that's what winds up happening when we deal, when the lobby team is dealing with. What would an expanded oversight rule look like? One that, what, any thoughts?
So it'd be Department of Ecology doing those checks and audits.
So should the league take a position? And Marilyn, I think that's a really good piece to get in the comments.
Which are,
These, well, all of this is wonderful, but how's it gonna get paid?
that was the only comment I've got.
Okay, great. We will probably keep repeating it.
Who loses funding when more funding goes to
You
get
know,
out sign?
Oh,
I'm sorry. Just use your little get out sign.
Should the league take a position that ecology's oversight role should be expanded to require periodic checks or audits on local governments, shoreline programs, particularly the implementation through the granting of permits and exemptions?
Well, that's just what we said, if there's no oversight, there's no way.
Well, one of the problems is there's no penalty if you don't submit for plan.
Participate.
Well,
So,
if there's an exemption, that means they're doing something that is not really okay, but they're doing it because somebody wants to do it, and they're giving them an okay. But like, then somebody has to sue them, so we really ought to have a high cost for an exemption. We ought to tax an exemption to the highest limit that we think it could be
Just
cost.
like Elon Musk, if you
Yeah.
have a blue check, you pay for it.
Yeah, I really think that we need to pay for exemptions.
I think that's a good, that would be an incentive in the planning process, because I am always thinking that the planners or somebody in the government is thinking, well, if we let these people build on this waterfront, it's gonna bring in a lot more taxes. But if those people have to pay something to get that exemption,
so maybe that's an appropriate comment to add to the previous question on exemptions.
The one thing that
I
I
think they need to pay for the exemptions.
right,
My other thought was if they don't do if a jurisdiction doesn't do a plan, then they just flat out get a reduced number of exemptions. You can only issue so many exemptions.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, because if they really want an exemption, they got a really good reason for the exemption, they should be willing to pay.
Right.
I'm concerned because I think that the minute you start paying anybody to allow you to do something that they would otherwise allow you to do,
Yeah.
they're heading into corruption territory.
well, we got corruption, that's one of the
And,
things.
That's a good point, it's already there.
I think that, the exemptions should have to be made public.
Yes.
And published in the
Yes.
newspaper.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I mean, every exemption that is applied for, there should be, it's like when there's a building permit issue, it should be the same thing. You have to, alert the neighborhood and let people know publicly and have a process for, objection and that kind of thing. And as much as I would like to have people who want exemptions have to pay for their whatever, I just think that's kind of a wedge in the door that you might not ever close it.
I don't know.
So, but
They have to make it public.
well, and the public doesn't read those things.
Well, there are watchdog groups. I mean, I
Yeah,
think that, part of the thing, we're counting on a lot of public entities to monitor this stuff, but we do have nonprofit groups that are highly interested and very alert and are monitoring things. So I think
just
that we have to,
neighborhoods.
we
Well, I was
can't
gonna say,
exclude
yeah.
them from, the impact that they can have.
One thing I know, like my husband and I were talking about this bulwark thing, because we have a piece of property on the river and it has, when the property was built about the time of the fire, they put in this concrete bulwark along the river. Well, if we wanted to do anything with that property, we would have to address that. So like, we have to start looking at this, like, is this causing something environmental in the river really? And I think every project has to be looked at like that when people are starting to reconstruct or do something different.
Okay, so I want to come back to what our question is here. I mean, all right, given enough time and money, should the oversight require periodic checks or audits implementation of granting of permits and exemptions.
Yeah.
Should be required, and if it's gonna be required, I think a comment needs to be, there needs to be some hammer if you don't meet the requirement.
Yeah.
And is that strongly agreed, or is that agreed?
Strongly agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
I don't agree. No, I can. Because I want to see, I want to see them pay.
Okay.
Preferred uses, discussion question is, what are some non-preferred uses? Are there some water dependent uses that should no longer be considered preferred? Right, so right now, priority is given to single family residences, ports, shoreline recreational uses, including.
Which one are you on?
It's in the,
Or number 8.
yeah, preferred uses, I'm just reading a little section.
No,
about the-
okay, I don't have my pages.
Okay. What do I look at? Parks, marinas, and piers. And I think the study committee said they didn't know why the single family residence was even, why it was given priority.
I don't think it should be.
I don't either. I have a big question mark.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we're going to, as it keeps pointing out, more people are moving into the state and more people are wanting access. And the people who can afford access for single family dwellings are, you know, welcome.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with property rights.
Well, that's right.
I mean, that's why they give it priority, because depending on who made the loudest noise on this, property rights are real important to some areas of our state.
Oh, yeah. But it looked like what's over 70% of the shorelines are already in private hands. So it seems like
Development.
the other 30% should be given higher protection.
Okay, so the.
And so remember that remember, this was created in the early 70s.
Well, I saw
Which
that.
also speaks to the property rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this, you know, the question is, should it be reviewed? And I would say, yes, I strongly agree it should be reviewed.
That's the question.
That's
Oh, yeah, the
Yes.
consensus
So we
question.
strongly-
That's very good.
Yeah, we strongly agree.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes,
No.
yes.
We are on number 9, everyone.
What's number 9 called?
Public
Public
access.
access. So have you enjoyed public access to Washington State shoreline?
Oh, yes.
How does the public access as a priority fit into other priorities?
Well, I feel like it's gone down because of all the private ownership.
Well, we have a 2-inch sword here, the more public access, the more pressure on the shoreline.
I might have amended this question.
Civil science teacher.
You know,
I would want to amend this
Wait a minute, let
question.
her amend it.
I would want to say, so that should the lease take position, the state must provide additional funding for it, dedicated specifically for the state and local governments to provide more public access where possible and within the framework of net gain. Because I think that otherwise, you know, you have to weigh, I mean, that's your overall objective, right? So you can't say, oh, but wait, public access, there has to be a way to provide public access and at the same time, not further degrade the shoreline.
Which is what I was getting at. So
Yeah.
You're right. If they keep that in mind,
Yeah.
otherwise, yeah. You're right.
I've been to Ocean Shores just in the last few months, and I love it there because you can go all the way out, and you can drive your car on the beach. But in a lot of ways, I don't think that should happen everywhere because all the plant beds are dead, and there are so many things that happen to the beaches that it's nice that we can all do that, but it shouldn't be every beach. However, I do think, you know, within 200 feet, when the tide's out, you ought to be able to walk the beach on any private property, and that's not always the case on our beaches. I do think that security is an issue, but I think we all ought to be able to walk on a public beach.
Okay, so now you're talking different things, because different areas of the shore have different species. Some species can handle, some can't. So you can't treat every inch of the shore the same, because each one has its own specific requirements, detriments, whatever impacts it. So yeah, that's where I think what Allison was getting at is her comment, you have to take into effect what's happening on that beach. You can't just say, sure, this will be public, because you don't know which specific species you are harming here. So it has to be something that is looked at.
Well, there's one thing about walking on a beach, and another thing about driving up and down.
Oh, no, even walking can.
Yeah,
But I think this question is about providing additional funding sources.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, but,
So it,
go ahead. So it implies that the higher purpose is building access, because the funding would only go to access.
Yeah.
And my concern is that those, you know, access is a high priority, but it isn't about maintaining or improving the integrity of the road.
So
what I hear
Yeah,
you
go
say is that you would disagree with this question, but would have an amendment, as you said, to make it something more acceptable.
Yes,
So-
make it where it was made clear that public access is, as a priority has to be balanced by the priority of.
So are we, is there an agreement with what Allison is saying?
Yes.
And then we can figure out how to report this, because we want to disagree with the question, but we want to write in what would make it an acceptable statement. Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to mark a little box.
Yeah,
You
that's
have to
not
mark a no opinion.
I was gonna say either.
Okay, so
And that's what the
box
comment
is.
section is
And
for.
you can send a color card.
Well, I'm leaning between no opinion and disagree.
I think
Well,
disagree leads us to.
Well, we will,
Allison's
we'll get it to you.
I think if we disagree with this, as it's written, and then Allison, you write your edit there, then we can all agree with that.
So we disagree with this, and then down in the comments, put what Allison said, right?
Yeah.
Right, so Allison would do her.
And
make
maybe
sure.
so bad, you need to have to remember.
Basically, all she said was,
Here's what I
provide
wrote
more
down.
public
Oh,
access
she's got it written
to
down.
Yes.
shorelines with net gain.
Make clear that public access has to be balanced by net gain.
Yes.
That's good.
There's a need for that game, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And so we can add to that comment and say, but the group would agree to this funding if you do this part.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
Hold on.
We did it.
We have some people are back now.
And it's 6:45 on the dot.
On the dot, you are awesome.
There are other issues in
Yeah.
this, one at the bottom.
Are there any other issues that
60
you
seconds.
need?
Sure.
As much as we are non-partisan,
They haven't come back on their own.
this can become a really partisan issue.
It gives
so
them
that
the
one
countdown
party
in their
can
Right,
that they can watch.
operate
I thought it was doing that.
control.
Well, that's true.
And they have to be able to get beyond that, maybe have not so much a partisan, but a community group that decides some of it in some way, but have it open to the public to give testimony. These decisions, if they're just on a party line, that's where we're gonna run into some issues.
I hear you, Lynn. But I'm not sure that I think that's outside of our control.
Yeah.
Well, it's a concern.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I think it's a concern with every issue. Yeah, it's not specific.
I think And I would say we are not asking for a partisan decision on these. We are asking for goals and things that can better our environment. However, that is interpreted by other people as their problem.
Yes.
All right, everyone's coming back from their breakout room. Hello, everybody. I think you have some background.
Well, I guess we got through all the questions. Okay, so we got through all the questions here in the room. So I'm curious how our groups online did. Maybe put in the chat what question you left off on.
Rebecca
Or
or
report out from the leader.
Well,
Yeah, or if our leaders want to tell us how far they got.
Elaine's reporting.
Okay,
the group that I was with, we got through questions 1 through 7. We were in the midst of trying to figure out the last 2 and ran out of time.
okay. And what about your group, Rebecca?
We were small. We did all 9.
Okay, so for the group that didn't get through all of them, we do have a follow-up session scheduled. If you want to attend those, or that, there's one, which is, we'll put that link in the chat so you can register for that. And please email me your questionnaire and any notes that you have and summary of everything that you went through in your groups. Any questions?
Will that link be sent out also in an email?
Or with the chat.
Yeah.
So, do you want to bring up the PowerPoint? I don't know how many of you know that we have a YouTube site where we post all our meeting recordings. And we'll put that YouTube link in the chat, and then we're gonna bring up a screenshot so I can show you what that looks like. So if you go to YouTube and you just type in LWV Spokane, it'll bring you to our YouTube site, and you can see our past recordings. And what I've started doing, that's it right there. And what I started doing with these, when I put them in there, you'll see this section down here below, and that's where I'm putting our chat with all our links. So for those in the room that aren't online right now and can't get to those links, or if you forget to save the chat online, you can come into our YouTube channel and you can click on that meeting and you can see all of our chat with all our links in there, so you'll be able to get to it. So I will, yours is a registration, yeah. So if you need to join that meeting, it's a Zoom link to register, and so I'll also put that in the chat so that you can find it in there.
And totally optional, not required, just
Yeah.
if you want to finish the discussion, if your group didn't get through.
Did everybody hear that? It's optional if you want to finish the last 2 questions. So,
If that group wants to stay 15 minutes to finish, is that an option? No, because you're gonna shut this down.
yeah.
Okay.
Can we share our group discussion with that group? Is that gonna have to come to YouTube?
So you're gonna consult, you're gonna, no, the YouTube is just the recording of our meeting that we had tonight with links to the different, like to register if you want to come to the next meeting on the 17th. You can register to finish out those last 2 questions, but what's gonna happen, I believe, Amy, is that all of this gets compiled as our lead consensus and sent on the state.
And reported out to the
I'm
members.
just thinking
Yeah.
about that last question, and sharing that might invite some input.
Oh. Okay. Well, yeah, that's probably.
Well, if they watch it, they can.
No, we didn't record it. You didn't, did you record our?
We recorded the whole time, yeah.
Okay, so it was just the 2
Yeah,
breakout
you can't record
rooms.
breakout
Right.
rooms, or at least I don't know how. It's a little messy.
Right, you could.
So,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
So they could send their comments
Yeah.
to your leadership site. your
Well, so
email.
Amy's gonna get Elaine's group's comments and Rebecca's comments and compile them, and they'll send them to Amy, so
Yeah.
And if they watch the YouTube and they want to add something to it, they would also be able to send that.
To Amy, yes, yeah, so if you want to add anything, so if you know what the last two questions are and you just want to put in your input to Amy, that would be totally good as well. That's what I'm hearing, so, okay.
Yep, and our committee will compile everyone's answers.
Yeah.
Spokane leads.
And then is the plan to like put it in the voter, what we ended up sending to state so everybody can see it, or where, how are we gonna let the?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
okay.
posted on that website.
That'd be
The website.
January,
When's our next
January voter or December, January.
January.
Well, we'll be meeting in December. And it's due
It'll
to-
already be out.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we January voter.
Okay. And then plus, of course, we have a website, and so there's always a place on the website for it. We'll probably link to whatever we put on the website, so.
We can put it on Facebook.
And plug for our website. We have some really cool stuff on there. So go to our website as well and check out all the different really cool pieces of information that are on there about everything the league is doing. Happy voting. I feel like it should be like a football score that we should be bringing up on the screen to see where everybody's at, so we all know since we've been in this void for these few hours. What's the next? Oh, remind everybody, if you have not renewed your membership, please renew your membership. I think that's the next slide. And the last slide is just upcoming events. Yes,
How
Allison.
much is it, do we know?
I just wanted to share a little bit of brightness regarding the league. I was watching returns and conversations about returns, and a professor from Morgan State, which is a largely black college in Maryland, said that his students said they had trouble registering to vote.
Amy,
He contacted the local league of women voters.
5 minutes.
He
Thank you.
contacted the local league of women voters, and they sent him a flying squad and registered a gazillion kids on that campus like instantly. And I know Becky would have been there too. And she had gotten them home. So I just think it's important to celebrate what the league is doing, and in Arizona, of course.
Yes.
The league was initiating lawsuit against the vigilante observers who are armed and trying to monitor the voting. So the league has been very active and doing good things.
She wants us out of here in less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but
So-
we can go out here and it's not a problem.
That was weird. They told us, yeah, we've been told that we don't have to bring this dog to the back
We've
door.
taken longer before, too.
So she's probably new, and doing her job. Those are upcoming dates. Yes, Anne.
Yes, that would be great.
Just want to put a special plug in for the December 10th action workshop. It's virtual, and that's where you get to see how positions are used to influence the legislature, which is the next step in what we just did tonight.
All right. That's a wrap, everybody. Unless there's questions online. Was there any questions online, Jennifer? That we
No.
Anything in the chat?
No.
All right, everybody, thank
Saving it
you
and
for
sending it.
joining us. This was a really good turnout. Very exciting. Thank you, everybody.
What do we have about?
I feel like I should sing. Should I sing?
Yes.
Jodi, wasn't there about 27 maximum?
20. Maximum
Between what
what?
was there and what's in here?
I did not.
Oh.
What was the turnout number? I think
Oh.
27.
Yeah,
We had
but
about
some of the
14,
numbers.
we had about 14 online.
So that would be about 4.
Is that,
We had-
does she want that?
Yeah, well, she's counting.
Did you say 12?
Well, but we were just talking
Oh.
about what was there.
Yeah.
There were.
Does she have-
Yeah,
I'll
get
the camera. She's still on. Are you able to get through?
Yeah, yeah.
So that would be about 24.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to.
Yeah. If you haven't done that. And it's helpful that send in that. I had 20. So do we need to help put things away?
April, how should the chairs be put back?
So we don't have.
We don't have to do anything.
Okay, where we go with that? You get to go home, you have an hour drive.
When did the library tell you that? Yeah, they told me we didn't have to. Oh, okay. All right.
Very nice.
Very cool. Okay, ladies. Cleaning up our mess, so we're not.
It was 16.
And I'll,
thought there were like 4, so.
if you give me your glasses.
I'm sending myself the chat. I'm sending myself the chat. Do you want me to clean it up at all? Or you want me to send it as is to you?
You can send it to me, because I have a feeling I'm only gonna put the links in, like not the whole chat. It was a lot of room two.
Right, okay, exactly. So I'm just gonna send it as is and you'll deal with that. Okay, sounds good. So,
Get your water.
yes.
Thank you.